I want to begin this time by asking you to reflect on some timely questions here at the end of the year. These aren't really different questions, they're just all different ways of asking the same question. So I would encourage you to identify the question that most resonates with you right now in life and give yourself a little space this morning to reflect prayerfully on that question. I don't like it when people force questions on me, or sometimes I don't think, well, that's not quite the right question. So you have full liberty to edit the question into a form that feels fruitful for you today. What time is it for you or for us? And I mean, you can take this in any way, for you personally, for your family, for your neighborhood, for the city, for our congregation, for our nation, for our planet, kind of however that lands with you. Are you sensing any fullness to this time we're in? How are you marking time, making time mean more? What is the Spirit bringing to birth in you or in us at this time? Or finally, what are you grateful for as you look back on the past year, and what are you hoping, praying, and working towards as we move into 2024? So just some things to kind of stir your reflection. So with those questions alive in our midst, I invite you to listen for God's good news for you today in a couple of readings. One of these readings is the liturgical reading for today. Another one is actually the liturgical reading for January 1st. So first, from Galatians 4. But when the fullness of time had come, God sent his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, in order to redeem those who were under the law, so that we might receive adoption as children. And because you are children, God has sent the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, crying, Abba, Father. So you are no longer a slave, but a child. And if a child, then also an heir through God. One more reading from Ecclesiastes 3. This is familiar to you, but it's a good one to hear today. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what's planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What gain have the workers from their toil? I have seen the business that God has given everyone to be busy with. God has made everything suitable for its time. Moreover, God has put a sense of past and future into their minds, yet they cannot find out what God has done from beginning to end. I know that there's nothing better for them than to be happy and enjoy themselves as long as they live. Moreover, it is God's gift that all should eat and drink and take pleasure in all their toil. May God bless the reading of Holy Scripture. Thanks be to God. So we're mostly singing today, giving voice to our continuing Christmas joy at the birth of Christ, the incarnation, the enfleshment of God's love for us and for the whole world. But we are going to pause just for a few moments of reflection this morning. Both of these readings draw our attention to time as a problem and as a possibility. So just a few comments, and then I'm going to invite you to share in response to maybe one of those questions that hit with you this morning. Here we are at the juncture of an old year passing and a new year approaching, and we're together in this space, or in a digital space if you're with us online, worshiping in the time that stitches these 2 years together. So Both of our readings are about time's fullness. That first reading from Galatians is about the full time, the kairos time, the pregnant time, when history's time swelled and then gave birth to Mary's son. That's an interesting way to talk about time. I think it cultivates an appreciation of the uniqueness of the historical time of Jesus' arrival, what was going on then. But it doesn't completely focus on a back then and there. It also teaches us to think of our time in new ways, not as flattened time, identical time, repetitive time, always cyclical time that's always the same. Instead, it invites us to imagine time that waxes and wanes, time that thins and thickens, time that acts kind of like the tide going out and coming in. That variable notion of time and how it works and how it feels might help us see the time of our own lives in a new way. Ecclesiastes, on the other hand, refers to time's fullness in a different way. Wisdom literature teaches us that time is full in the sense that God's world has time for all the different seasons of life. Time for both sides of the coin, times for ups and downs, good times and bad times. In other words, God's time can hold all these times, all this fullness of time, this rich complexity, this motley mess of the way time feels to us. And perhaps our own lives can resonate a little bit with that flexible fullness of wisdom time, and that might get us a little better at marking time, making time, accepting more of what comes our way. In that sense, perhaps we could get a little less fragile and a little less demanding and a little more stable emotionally as we ride the waves of what comes. So on New Year's Eve, obviously that's a way of marking calendar time, and that's fine. Calendar time is important, but there are all kinds of different times, and you may be on a different time schedule. Some of you are on school time, academic time, right? That runs from August or September to May. Some of you are on fiscal budget cycle time, which may not line up with, calendar time. Many of you are working on projects that don't divide neatly along the calendar year, right? So you don't give up a project just because it's December 31st. Lots of our caregiving commitments have nothing to do with the ending and beginning of calendar time. We keep doing what God has called us to do. We keep being faithful, just sort of indefinitely. And in liturgical time, right? Advent began at the beginning of December, right? So January 1st catches us not quite at the beginning of the year, but catches us a month in to the new worship time, to the new liturgical year. So, with a few of those thoughts about time in mind, I invite you to come back to this cluster of questions, and I'll open it up, and we'll just see where it takes us. Kristen has a mic. It would be great if you could just wait until she gets to you with a mic, because the folks joining us online won't be able to hear you unless you speak into a mic. So these are the questions. Take one of these or mix and match them, edit them to make your own, but I'd love to hear how the Spirit might be stirring in you on this day of worship. If you'll raise your hand, Jim, we'll send Kristen to you, Jim, and then Max.
I pray for and I worry about our city. In a year that murders went down quite dramatically nationwide, I read in the Kansas City Star this morning that we set a new record in this city yesterday, and that there's a disconnect here that this city needs to solve.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim. And just while the mic is transitioning to Max, Lord, we pray for the safety and well-being of our city, for those who feel hopeless, for those who've already suffered violence.
What is the Spirit bringing to birth in you or in us at this time? Christmas Carol is one of my favorite movies, and particularly the one with Alistair Sim. Well, like Marley's ghost, I lost my best friend and two of my brothers. And the spirit that comes to me is to be like Ebenezer Scrooge and change your life enough to enjoy what's left of it, inspired by the memories of those people who have passed. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Max. An honest account of grief and loss, but trying to find a way to let it inspire something different moving forward. Yeah.
I'm looking at the second question. Are you sensing any fullness to the time we're in? I'm thinking of my dad, my late father's brother, who in March, if he makes it, will be 102. And I'm thinking of my youngest grandchild, who is 7. And I'm thinking of all of the years represented between the two of them, but our extended family, and all my 3 sisters and me, all of the years we've been around and experiencing life. And I'm just feeling grateful for that fullness, and grateful for the way that we've been loved through all of that.
Thank you, Bill.
I'm thinking a little bit about how are you marking time. This was a year I lost my dad, and connected in that his father, and my mother's father all died at the same age. And so I'm seeing this impending time that we're not guaranteed any time, we're not mandated any time, but I find myself seeing that sign down in the road of that age for me and thinking how I can and try to make time mean more. And I reflect on the end of Ecclesiastes, where it's, that we should eat, drink, and enjoy the results of our toil, and making it, not trying to hoard things away, but enjoying things in the moment so that I can make that time mean more.
We often hear the first part of the Ecclesiastes down to verse 8, but a lot of people haven't heard that last part. It sounds sort of hedonistic and like, whoa, wait, that's in Holy Scripture? Like, enjoy your life, eat up, have a party? Yep.
The first question, what time is it for us? I immediately thought, well, we're getting close to midnight, and a lot of us are in that position. Wouldn't it be great if we could face this new year like a brand new morning, and we got all ready, and we put ourselves together, and we saw what would face us today? Let's try to live that way for a few weeks and see if that makes a difference.
I did not pay Dave to market the new sermon series, but that was pretty good, Dave. So I'll give you $20 for that. Anyone this side?
We have not had any women speak. Do you have
Joanne.
any women? Oh, there we go.
Two,
Now,
three.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3.
Okay,
There
we're
we
going.
go.
Yeah. Kim, I'm going to come back to you.
I pay for strength, or pray for strength, excuse me. I'm just really struggling right now. I'm having family issues. My mother has dementia, and she's very, very hard to take care of. And I just want to be patient. I want to do a better job because I feel like I'm at the end, and it just seems to keep getting more challenging.
Thank you, Kim. Yeah, there's been vulnerability about loss and grief and mourning, and there's your vulnerability about struggle, and this is hard. Patience. Brenda, right there beside you, and then Joanne after her.
Last year I was given a terminal cancer diagnosis. It's shifted, just kind of along the lines of what you were sharing, just it's shifted my sense of purpose from, sorry, what is my purpose in life to what is my purpose in this moment. And what I've found is that my life is fuller because of that, and that's just sensing any fullness in the time that we're in spoke to me, and just what is the Spirit bringing to birth in you at this time both resonated because of that.
Thank you. Brenda just joined second recently as a member, and I think those of you who got to know her and those of you who were in that class are inspired by your story. Thank you, Brenda. You crying's allowed.
Yeah, so in terms of what time is it? Well, today's my birthday, so I'm starting my 76th year. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, let's do it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. It's Joanne. Happy birthday, dear Joanne. Happy birthday to you.
Thanks. Did not expect that. But so God kept me up practically all night, and but I was very happy, and I'm awake. So, and what I was thinking was, over my life, every time is the same time in terms of my joy and my responsibility, which is bringing Christ to the world, both personally and as a community. And I've always been a politically active person. Therefore, I'm aware of what's going on in the world, and it's a very difficult time for humanity for many reasons. But that doesn't change where my joy and my responsibility lie.
I love that. Yeah, setting side by side joy and responsibility. We can get out of whack either way. Josephine in the back. This is the last day of the calendar year, and so Josephine is still, as of right now, the moderator of John Calvin Presbytery is my last one, Heartland Presbytery. So it is only fitting that we hear a word from you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you very much. And that is what my word is about. Having been the moderator, I saw a lot of hurt across our presbytery. So my wish, what time is it? It's time for us to come together as a people to see the hurt and needs of all the rest of us and work toward building a better community. Thank you.
Thank you, Josephine. Anybody over here on her way back up? Okay. Cindy over here in the transept.
Hi, thanks. I'm not really sure what question I can answer, but I was just sort of moved by what someone else said about their struggle and how I'm kind of going through a lot of struggle with needing to find a new place to live and now needing to find a new car. So it's just been really hard, and I have a lot of fear, and I don't really know how to access faith necessarily or trust, but I'm trying. So I guess I'm hoping to, find a new place to live, find a new car, and maybe a little bit more money. I don't know, but I'm just feeling like I'm kind of like walking off a cliff, but I'm hoping I don't fall very far. So anyway, I just appreciate any support and prayers coming my way. Thanks.
You got it. Thank you, Cindy. Melissa.
I was looking at number one, and I would say for today, it's time for me to reach out. Some of you are familiar with Pete and Kate, who did some Peace Corps work in Ukraine, and they've been connecting us with Yaroslava there, who does volunteer work and work with the orphanage and all of that. And so while they had their latest terrible onslaught, we were like connected by this little piece of glass tile that we all have in our pockets, and I was just amazed, able to send her messages of encouragement and her to come back and says, you all are keeping me alive, you all are keeping me encouraged, because of you I can go on. That was amazing to me, and so I thought in this time, in the 21st century, it's time to reach out, and we have so much technology available. So I was grateful for that, because there was such a sense, and still is a sense of helplessness that can risk transitioning into hopelessness if we don't use what we have to stay connected. So, so it's time to reach out. That's what has come to me.
Thank you, Melissa.
I am looking at the last one, and I'm so grateful for the support and the love I get from my friends and my family. And that's been super just rewarding and amazing to be able to give back as well. And I'm really hoping and praying for peace in the areas of this world that are just in war and strife and pain. And my heart goes out to the Palestinians in particular, just because that's sort of my thing. But grateful to be here today. Thank you so much, Jared. Pass.
This morning's star gives voice to a new, well, maybe it's not so new, arrangement of nations who are somehow challenging the connections that our nation has made since I was a little boy during the Second World War, and we gathered together as a nation. And I feel the Israeli-Palestinian war and its potential growth are frightening. Our leadership is struggling with how to apply the memories, the tradition, the intelligence, the life that we've known in a way that will provide us a way, let me say, a way out of the trouble that we find in pressing on us. And so that's part of my prayer every day, watching the events that bode well or ill for the life that many of us in the United States have held. And I look back at some of the missteps that we've made and recognize how others could oppose us in ways that I never thought possible. But here we are.
Thank you, Kite. Got time for one or two more if there's anybody else who'd like to share. In the back, Ann. Anybody else over here? Got one more for the queue. Okay.
I hope I can hold this together. I'm struck this morning by the referrals to the Kansas City Star. I saw the article about the BRIC nations maybe expanding. I don't know if that's good or bad because I didn't have time to read it. The war situation I find terrifying. And when you're getting older, as I am, what time is it for me or us? Pay attention. A fullness, I'm not sure. This has not been a happy year, for me anyway. So I've been marking time, and I feel like I'm getting into a different birth as I age. And am I grateful as I look back to 2023? I'm very grateful. It was not a good year for me, and it was very frustrating. So I have a lot to look forward to in 24. It can't get worse, I don't think, even as I stand here with a bandage. But everybody sees it and says, oh, you've been to the dermatologist. That's part of aging, too. This church has meant a lot to me. And if it weren't for my mother's cousin, Mary Jane Carper, I wouldn't be here. She introduced me to the finest of people here and made me welcome, as did everybody else eventually. So thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Pat.
Yeah, so this is addressing gratitude. I'm grateful for Mateo, Jenny, Quill, River, and all the other kids in Worship Alive. They teach me so much more than I teach them, and I suspect that's true for all the volunteers in their enthusiasm, their hopes, even their fears and sorrows that you see on the prayer wall. If there's any hope, it's certainly in the faces of those kids and all the others that show up. So I'm looking forward to getting to know them more in the coming year, and I'm grateful for having gotten to work with them over the past year. A lot of hope in these kids. Amazing, amazing group.
Thank you, Pat. Reed, and then we'll wrap up after this.
I just wanted to echo the hopes and fears of everybody here and express gratitude for fellowship and companionship for those who are here and not here, my wife, my brother.
Thank you, Reed. Yeah, and use the phrase paying attention, for the poet Mary Oliver, that's the definition of prayer, just learning to pay attention to what's going on in your life, what's going on in the world. So I'm so grateful for your sharing and the way it can inspire others and spark new ideas, but also sort of create flashes of resonance and recognition that we're all in this together. The kinds of things you shared across the span of things from personal grief and loss and struggle and need to matters of city welfare and well-being to kind of the politics of our country to the state of violence and war in the wider world and climate crisis stuff. I mean, that reflects to me so much of what it means to be on a spiritual journey together here at Second. So thank you for bringing your real selves into this space. We're not stuck. We're not stuck. God is leading us forward into this year, and there will be all kinds of things coming to birth. So to quote Anne and the poet Mary Oliver, pay attention.